Okay, good morning, good afternoon to all audience, wherever you're located. It is my privilege to welcome all of you to this event, where we will present a dialogue with Chairman of BKPM, also known as the Indonesian Investment Coordinating Board, on the topic of Omnibus Law, which just recently, everyone, just like what you saw on the previous slide just before, that today's webinar will be delivered in both Indonesian and English using the Zoom simultaneous interpretation system. What you see on your screen is a quick guide on how you can access this feature and how to enable language-specific selection. Now, if you're using a web browser or the old version of Zoom desktop, you may not see this feature. So if you really need translation, I suggest you quickly log out, update your Zoom desktop, and join us again. So this webinar is an integral part of the Virtual Trade Expo Indonesia 2020, which has been held since last week from the 10th of November, and will be officially closed later today. With the momentum of the IA-CEPA implementation and the ratification of Omnibus Law, today we will learn directly from the chairman of BKPM on some of the relevant parts in regards to investment under the Omnibus Law and IA-CEPA. This event has been organized in collaboration between several organizations, such as the Indonesian Embassy in Canberra, Indonesian Investment Promotion Center in Sydney, or IIPC, Indonesian Consulate Generals in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth, as well as the Indonesian Consulate in Darwin, the Australia-Indonesia Business Council, AIBC, and the Indonesia-Australia Business Council, IABC. I also like to acknowledge a number of special people in our midst today. The Indonesian Consul General in Sydney, Bapak Heru Subolo, the Indonesian Consul General in Melbourne, Ibu Spika Tutu Hatunewa, Indonesian Consul General in Perth, Ibu Dewi Tobing, and the Indonesian Consul in Darwin, Bapak Gulfan Afero. And I also like to specially welcome the chairman of BKPM, His Excellency Bahlil Lahadalia, who we will hear speak in a few minutes. The Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia for Australia and Vanuatu, His Excellency Kristiarto Legowo, the National President of the Australia-Indonesia Business Council, Mr. Phil Turtle from Western Australia, and the National President of the Indonesia-Australia Business Council, IABC, Mr. George Marantika, both who will be asking the first question during the Q&A session after the presentation. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite His Excellency Kristiarto Legowo, the Ambassador of Indonesia to Australia and Vanuatu, to give his opening remarks. Pak Kris, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pak Setyawan of the IBC Victoria. Yang sangat kami hormati Bapak Bahlil Lahadalia, Chairman of the Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board, Pak Yatno, Deputy Chairman for Investment Cooperation of the BKPM also. I would like to acknowledge the presence of my colleagues all over Australia, Bu Konjen Spika, Bu Konjen Dewi, Pak Konjen Heru Subolo, dan Pak Konsul Gulfan, Pak Henry Rombe, as the Director of Indonesia Investment Promotion Center in Sydney, my good friend Pak Phil Turtle, National President of Australia-Indonesia Business Council, also my good friend Pak George Iwan Marantika, National President of Indonesia-Australia Business Council. Good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, allow me to welcome and thank you for joining us into this webinar. a virtual dialogue with Chairman of BKPM on Omnibus Law and Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, its impact on investment. I should like to convey my gratitude to the Chairman of the Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board, Pak Bahlil. Pak Bahlil yang kami hormati, terima kasih banyak untuk kesediaan Bapak untuk dapat berbagi dengan kami semua. Mudah-mudahan nanti Bapak bisa memberikan pencerahan pada kita semua, khususnya yang terkait dengan Omnibus Law. About half an hour ago, together with the Governor of West Java, Pak Ridwan Kamil, together also with the Australian Ambassador to Indonesia, Mr. Gary Kinlan, the Fed official and the ACT government, I just witnessed the signing ceremony of the shareholder agreement between PT Jasa Sarana and Aspen Dokta to develop health infrastructure in West Java. The value of the investment itself is around $1 billion. The aforesaid signing marks a tangible manifestation of IA-CEPA implementation and signifies the confidence and commitment of both Indonesian and Australian business people for further collaborations. And today's webinar is an integral part of the Trade Expo Indonesia 2020, as has been mentioned by Pak Emmanuel, which has held since 10th of November 2020 until today. With the momentum of IA-CEPA, implementation and also the ratification of Omnibus Law, the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Canberra, together with the IIPC in Sydney, and my colleague from all over Australia, Australia Business Council, Australia-Indonesia Business Council, Indonesia-Australia Business Council, we would like to welcome you all to the virtual dialogue with the Chairman of the Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board, Bapak Bahlil Lahadalia. The Omnibus Law has been signed by President Joko Widodo as the Law Number 11/2020 concerning job creation as a part of Indonesian government effort to improve Indonesia's investment climate, to create more job opportunities for Indonesians, as well as to enhance Indonesia's SMEs and private sector's collaboration. In today's webinar, we will hear directly from the Chairman of the Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board on some of the relevant aspects with regard to the investment under the Law Number 11 of 2020. The Indonesian government hopes that the ratifications of the Law Number 11 of 2020 will be able to deliver positive messages for both domestic and foreign investors and accelerate direct investment realization in Indonesia. Indonesia has significantly improved our ease of doing business ranking in the last 5 years, from rank 91 in 2016 to rank 73 in 2020. Latest surveys from global credit rating companies such as Fitch Ratings, Moody's, GCR have shown the country's economic resilience with a stable credit rating. This shows that Indonesia is a safe destination for your investment. With substantial and stable economic growth, combined with a significant size, has brought Indonesia to establish itself into $1 trillion economy since 2017, making Indonesia the only ASEAN country in the G20. Australia itself has been well established as one of the main investment partners for Indonesia. Australia's position in top foreign investment partner of Indonesia has steadily improved from the 16th position in 2016 to the top 10 position in 2018 and 2019. Meanwhile, throughout the first 3 quarters of 2020, Australian investors have realized around $269.6 million of investment in Indonesia, with an encouraging sign of improvement in the third quarter after there was a decline of investment realization in the second quarter of 2020. Indonesian government is hoping to maintain a good investment cooperation that has been established with Australia. Through the implementation of both the IA-CEPA and Law Number 11 of 2020, the Australian investment will be provided with greater opportunity, greater protection, and facilitation from the Indonesian government. Today, you will learn directly again from Pak Bahlil Lahadalia on how Australian investment can flourish and what kind of opportunity will arise from the implementation of IA-CEPA and the Omnibus Law. We will learn how the ratification of Omnibus Law can impact in and accelerate foreign direct investment realization and ease the process of doing business in Indonesia, as well as collaboration opportunity with Indonesia's SMEs. To close, allow me to extend my appreciation to our friends and colleagues who have put their time and effort into making this webinar a reality. Our Consulate General in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth, and also our Consulate in Darwin, IIPC, AIBC, IABC, who continue to assist our mission in encouraging and promoting Indonesia-Australia economic relations. Thank you so much for your kind participation, but more importantly, thank you so much for being part of the better relations between Indonesia and Australia. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Pak Chris, for your opening remarks. We will now move into the main part of this webinar, which is the presentation by the chairman of BKPM. Now, as I said earlier, this presentation will be delivered in Indonesian. So if you need, you can activate the English translation feature at the bottom of your screen. Likewise, the slides will also be in Indonesian. The IIPC team has made the English version of the slides available on the link, which is now just being posted on the chat box. You can download the English version from the link and follow the presentation as the chairman speaks. And I'd like to remind everyone that you can post your question in the Q&A box also at the bottom of your screen. We will go through this list of questions when we get to the Q&A segment. So it is an honor for me to introduce the chairman of the BKPM, His Excellency Bahlil Lahadalia. Mr. Bahlil Lahadalia was born in Banda 7 August 1976. He is one of the ministers in the Onward Indonesia Cabinet, or Kabinet Indonesia Maju of Jokowi Maruf. He is a businessman who owns at least 10 companies in which are employing thousands of workers. He was also once served as chairperson of the Indonesian Young Entrepreneurs Associations, or also known as HIPMI, for the 2015 to 2019 period. He owns a master's degree which he earned from Cendrawasih University in Jayapura. Now, before successfully sitting at the top of the HIPMI national leaderships, Chairman Bahlil had already proceeded at the Regency BPC level and had become the chairperson of the BPD HIPMI Papua province in 2008, followed by being the chair of the infrastructure and property sector of the BPP HIPMI Center for service period 2011 and 2014. Without further ado, let's welcome the chairman of the Indonesian Investing Coordinating Board, or BKPM, His Excellency Bahlil Lahadalia.
Baik, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Yang saya hormati Pak Dubes, Excellency, Pak Kristiarto, apa kabar? Ya, luar biasa sekali saya melihat Dubes saya sangat senyumnya yang sangat mempesona. Mudah-mudahan bisa berdampak pada bagaimana investasi dari Australia masuk ke Indonesia pasca Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja.
Amin. Mohon doa restu Pak Kepala.
Ya, Pak Pil yang saya hormati dan Bapak Ibu semua, para konjen yang ada, khusus untuk Pak Emmanuel yang membaca CV saya lengkap. Cocok sekali Pak Emmanuel ini menjadi seorang presenter yang baik kelihatannya.
Terima kasih Pak.
Iwan Marantika yang saya hormati dan semua teman-teman. Saya mempergunakan waktu ini untuk menyampaikan tentang potret realisasi investasi Indonesia kaitannya dengan Australia. Sebelum saya memulai, saya ingin memberikan gambaran sedikit tentang pertumbuhan ekonomi di Asia Tenggara dan Indonesia. Kalau global pasti kita semua sudah tahu. Di era pandemi COVID, kita hampir semua tahu bahwa pandemi COVID ini tidak satu negara pun yang menginginkan. Namun kemudian ini terjadi yang diawali dari persoalan kesehatan, sekarang persoalan ekonomi, dan mungkin juga akan menjadi persoalan sosial. Kita lihat di kuartal 3, di hampir semua negara Asia Tenggara, termasuk China yang agak sedikit positif, itu Vietnam yang agak baik ya, 2,6 pertumbuhannya. Indonesia sendiri itu minus 3,45. Dibandingkan dengan Singapura, kemudian Thailand, itu kita masih agak jauh lebih baik. Dan potret pertumbuhan ekonomi kita di kuartal keempat, karena sudah mulai stabil, kami punya keyakinan bahwa itu akan mengarah kepada positif. Ini dalam konteks pertumbuhan ekonomi pada kuartal ketiga. Saya juga memberikan data tentang realisasi investasi Indonesia pada 2020. Target realisasi investasi kita di tahun 2020 itu sebesar 817,2 triliun. Dan dari 817,2 triliun tersebut, PMDN-nya, penanaman modal negerinya, itu 309,9 triliun atau sama dengan 50,7%. PMA-nya 301,7 atau sama dengan 49,3%. Saya ingin menyampaikan bahwa di hampir semua beberapa lembaga dunia mengatakan bahwa foreign direct investment itu akan turun 30-40%. Di Indonesia itu penurunannya terjadi, namun tidak lebih dari 10%. Kenapa tidak lebih dari 10%? Saya akan menjelaskan pada slide berikut. Tapi satu hal yang menarik bahwa tujuan investasi, baik foreign direct investment maupun penanaman modal dalam negeri, yang bertujuan investasi di Indonesia tidak lagi hanya fokus di Pulau Jawa, tapi sudah bergeser kepada luar Pulau Jawa. Kenapa? Karena 5 tahun kemarin, arah kebijakan pembangunan pemerintahan Jokowi Pak JK dengan membangun infrastruktur yang masif, itu kemudian sekarang sudah mendapatkan hasilnya. Karena kita ingin investasi yang berkualitas yang mampu menumbuhkan atau menciptakan kawasan-kawasan pertumbuhan ekonomi baru. Dan sekarang di luar Pulau Jawa seperti di Sumatera, di Sulawesi, di Maluku, di Papua itu sudah mulai setara. Jadi kalau teman-teman dari Australia yang mau investasi, jangan hanya pikiran ataupun referensinya hanya di Jawa, tapi di luar Pulau Jawa pun sudah mulai sangat baik. Nah, kemudian bagaimana potret realisasi investasi untuk Australia di Indonesia? Saya ingin menyampaikan bahwa sampai Januari September itu sudah sebesar 269,60 juta US dollar ya, yang udah masuk, dan lebih banyak ke sektor pertambangan, lebih banyak kepada sektor pertambangan. Dan dapat kita pastikan bahwa potret realisasi investasi dari Australia itu tidak hanya fokus di Pulau Jawa, tapi kemudian sudah mengarah kepada beberapa daerah lain, seperti di Sulawesi, ya, kemudian di Sumatera, Kalimantan, dan lain-lain. Nah, ini contohnya nih. Nah, itu potretnya. Kemudian saya ingin menyampaikan satu data. Kenapa foreign direct investment Indonesia turunnya hanya 10% dibandingkan dengan negara-negara lain? Ketika kami masuk menjadi kepala BKPM pada 2019, itu ada terdapat kurang lebih 708 triliun investasi mangkrak yang ada di Indonesia. Sudah masuk tapi tidak bisa dieksekusi. Kenapa tidak bisa dieksekusi? Karena harus kami bahwa terjadi ego sektoral antar kementerian lembaga yang ada pada negara Indonesia. Ada aturan tumpang tindih antara kabupaten kota, provinsi, dan pusat. Dan juga ada persoalan harga tanah yang mahal. 1 tahun kami masuk di BKPM, dan kami mulai menyelesaikan satu persatu dari persoalan yang ada. Kami mulai mengurai. Dan alhamdulillah dari 708 triliun tersebut 474,9 triliun mampu tereksekusi. Itulah kemudian yang menjadi jawaban kenapa foreign direct investment kita itu turunnya tidak lebih dari 10%. Karena tersubsidi dari apa yang sudah ada. Nah, saya ingin menyampaikan apa sih manfaat dengan Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja. Saya tadi katakan bahwa salah satu yang melatar belakangi kenapa Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja itu lahir atau yang namanya Omnibus Law itu adalah comotan dari 77 undang-undang. Jadi ada 77 undang-undang yang pasalnya bertabrakan itu kemudian diambil, kemudian melahirkan 15 bab menjadi 186 pasal dari 11 klaster. Nah, undang-undang ini salah satu yang melatar belakangi adalah kami akui sekali lagi bahwa tidak memberikan satu kepastian terhadap ease of doing business kita, kemudian berusaha kita, karena aturan tumpang tindih. Maka dengan undang-undang ini, tingkat kemudahan berusaha di Indonesia pada tahun 2014 itu nomor 120 dan sekarang kita nomor 73. Tadi Pak Dubes sudah menyampaikan. Undang-undang ini memberikan jaminan yang sangat transparan. Kenapa? Karena pengusaha itu hanya butuh 4 hal. Kemudahan, transparansi, efisiensi, dan kecepatan. Di dalam Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja ini menggabungkan ini. Maka saya yakinkan kepada teman-teman investor, kalau dulunya datang ke kementerian lembaga, lembaga OSS, online single submission, dan itu di bawah BKPM. Jadi itu merupakan domain dari BKPM. Jadi sekarang perizinan itu pasca lahirnya Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja nggak perlu lagi merasa sulit, cukup datang ke BKPM dan clear. Nah, kemudian Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja ini juga adalah merupakan bagian dari roh Impres nomor 7. Impres nomor 7 tahun 2019 itu perintah Presiden untuk mendelegasikan kewenangan yang ada pada 22 kementerian lembaga kepada BKPM. Jadi seluruh perizinan usaha yang ada pada kementerian lembaga itu sudah di BKPM sekarang, termasuk insentif fiskal. Jadi tax holiday, tax allowance, impor barang modal, itu semua sudah di BKPM. Jadi saya pikir dengan undang-undang dan yang ada ini, itu bisa memfasilitasi dunia swasta, terutama bagi para investor yang ada. Di aspek yang lain, kami ingin menyampaikan bahwa ada beberapa kebijakan pemerintah dalam konteks sektor-sektor prioritas untuk investasi. Yang pertama adalah sektor kesehatan. Saya terima kasih Pak Dubes, selamat atas MOU yang tadi sudah diteken. Tadi saya baru dapat informasi bahwa yang diteken itu adalah sektor infrastruktur kesehatan, pembangunan rumah sakit, 1 billion US dollar. Pak Dubes, nanti izinnya nanti saya yang akan langsung sendiri handle. Ya. Jadi ini adalah sebagai bentuk afirmatif, sebagai bentuk proses percepatan dari perintah Presiden, baik lewat Impres nomor 7 maupun Undang Cipta Kerja. Kita punya slogan sekarang, silakan investor datang bawa modal, bawa teknologi, sebagian pasar. Biarlah pemerintah Indonesia lewat BKPM yang akan menyiapkan izinnya dan akan membantu mencarikan lokasinya yang paling murah, yang kompetitif. Kenapa? Agar tidak lagi ketemu sama broker. Kita harus hadir untuk memberikan kepastian. Selain dari industri kesehatan, karena kami tahu 90% industri kesehatan kita masih impor di Indonesia. Jadi ini pasar yang sangat bagus sekali. Kemudian energi baru terbarukan, ini juga kita bangun kemarin dari pengusaha dari Australia, kalau tidak salah Andrea yang kerjasama untuk membangun PLTA di Mambramo dan di Kayang, dan sekarang kami sudah fasilitasi beberapa perizinannya dan bahkan sudah melakukan studi. Itu sekarang kita support. Kemudian infrastruktur dan pertambangan. Khusus untuk pertambangan, kami punya arah kebijakan untuk hilirisasi. Jadi baik dari batu bara kita sudah menuju kepada gas. Nikel, yang punya nikel ini Australia salah satu di antaranya, namun saya harus menyampaikan bahwa total cadangan nikel dunia itu 25% ada di Indonesia. Dan sekarang kita lagi mengembangkan untuk membangun GV baterai. Kemarin kita dari China sudah tanda tangan perjanjian kerjasama dan 2021 sudah mulai groundbreaking, CATL. Itu investasinya kurang lebih sekitar 5,1 bilion US dollar. Kemudian kita juga kemarin dengan beberapa perusahaan dari Korea. Ini juga udah hampir deal. Kita pingin ore nikel kita tidak akan kita ekspor bahan bakunya, tapi kita pingin harus ada satu industri yang terbangun dari hulu ke hilir, baik dari smelternya, cathode-nya, prokursornya sampai baterai cell. Dan saya punya keyakinan kalau teman-teman investor dari Australia masuk, maka kita akan memberikan privilege khusus, baik dari sisi tambangnya kita akan tanyakan kalau itu oke. Insentif fiskalnya kita akan kasih, maupun insentif yang lainnya. Nah, khusus terakhir terkait dengan kerjasama IA-CEPA dalam konteks investasi, saya pikir kita selalu menjadi masalah itu adalah tanah. Tanahnya mahal. Sekarang negara menyiapkan tanah gratis bagi para investor yang mau, yaitu lokasinya di Batang. Ada Batang, udah mau selesai lokasinya, sudah diresmikan oleh Presiden. Di sana hanya 500 meter dari pintu tol, tolnya juga sudah dibangun. Kemudian ada rel kereta apinya untuk barang dan satu jam ke Semarang. Jadi saya pikir ini izinnya semua nanti dikeluarkan oleh BKPM. Jadi bapak-bapak datang, nanti kita yang akan membantu untuk proses perizinannya. Saya pikir itu beberapa hal yang perlu saya sampaikan. Nanti QnA-nya nanti dengan Pak Riatno untuk menyampaikan, karena saya ada rapat lagi dengan Pak Menko. Pak Dubes yang mulia, terima kasih banyak Bapak Ibu Konjen dan khusus kepada IIPC, BKPM, terima kasih banyak semua ya. Pak Bahlil, selamat berdiskusi, semoga sukses selalu. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak Kepala.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the wonderful presentation. We will now move to the Q&A session for this webinar. Now, as Pak Bahlil has also said before, that we will be joined by the Deputy Chairman for the Investment Corporation, Bapak Riatno, due to Mr. Bahlil have another meeting after this. So Bapak Riatno will join us and will help to respond to question in place of Chairman Bahlil. Now, how we're going to do this is I'd like to first give the opportunity to Mr. Phil Turtle, the National President of the Australia-Indonesia Business Council, to perhaps give a quick comment and ask the first questions. Then after that, I will give the opportunity to Mr. George Marantika, the National President for the Indonesia-Australia Business Council, for comments and questions before I proceed to pick up questions from the Q&A panel. So Phil, how about we start with you?
Well, thank you, Emmanuel. It's my pleasure to represent the Australia-Indonesia Business Council on this event with Pak Bahlil Lahadalia, Chairman of the Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board, widely known as the BKPM. I was delighted to meet briefly with Pak Bahlil earlier this year in Canberra during the historic state visit by President Jokowi, just prior to COVID-19 descending upon us and bringing an end to travel between our countries, hopefully for not too much longer. We're delighted to have this opportunity to hear directly from Pak Bahlil, who sits as a member of Indonesia's cabinet, on his perspectives on the Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership, IA-CEPA, as well as the new Omnibus Job Creation Law and opportunities for Australian investors. And we've only heard today some wonderful news about Aspen Medical and their large investment in West Java. And also Pak Bahlil also referenced Andrew Forrest here from Western Australia with some large-scale plans for developing hydro and other green energy sources in Indonesia. I'd like also to acknowledge my dear friends, Ambassador Legowo, who I recently joined virtually to open the new Indonesia Trade Promotion Centre in Sydney, and Pak George Iwan Marantika, President of our sister organisation, the Indonesia-Australia Business Council, today joining us from Yogyakarta. Of course, the BKPM is a critically important organisation for Indonesia more broadly, but particularly for Australian businesses operating in Indonesia or looking to establish. There's been much progress already over recent years by Indonesia in climbing the international ease of doing business rankings, aided by the BKPM in the establishment of its online single submission system and its enhancements in the 3 years since its launch. The OSS and other measures, now including the Omnibus Job Creation Law, together aim to make Indonesia a more efficient and attractive destination for investment, and we welcome such initiatives that will see more Indonesian and Australian businesses transacting. As Australia and Indonesia emerge from COVID-19 in 2021, measures to reduce red tape, improve the conditions for business, and create jobs are critically important in both countries. The AIBC has a long association with the BKPM and works closely with both its Jakarta headquarters as well as the Indonesia Investment Promotion Centre in Sydney, under the leadership of yet more good friends in Director Pak Henry Rombe and Deputy Director Ibu Aram Paramita. This year of IA-CEPA, which entered into force in July, it's a year of great opportunity and high activity, notwithstanding the added challenges of COVID-19. Included in this activity has been the week-long virtual Trade Expo Indonesia, which has its final day today. And I hope that a number on this webinar today have been able to explore some of the amazing range of Indonesian products being exhibited. In closing, I would reflect that the relationship between Indonesia and Australia is today in very good shape across many sectors of business and government, and there is a great prospect to make further improvements in the level of trade investment between our countries. Again, thank you to Pak Bahlil for your words today about IA-CEPA and the Omnibus Law and investment opportunities. If I may ask a broad opening question to commence the Q&A session with Pak Riatno, Deputy Chairman for Investment Cooperation at the BKPM. Pak Riatno, together with IA-CEPA, what do you see as the main opportunities or low-hanging fruit created for Australian business in Indonesia by the new Omnibus Law? Terima kasih.
I would like to give the floor to Bapak Riatno, the Deputy Chairman for the Indonesia Investment Coordinating Board. Yeah, Pak Riatno, if you can respond to Pak Phil's question, what is the opportunity? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Pak Phil. Good afternoon, Pak Dubes. Good afternoon, Pak George Iwan Marantika, Pak Emmanuel Setyawan, and good afternoon for all audience. So far, thank you very much, Pak Phil, for your general comment, and I would like to give general comment regarding your question. Regarding the IA-CEPA, what I want to say that with regard to the investment issue in IA-CEPA, in this regard, the Australian investor and their investment will get a greater protection and legal certainty. Such protection will be in international and customary international level, not only law level. The comprehensive protection will ensure stability and predictability to the investor in running their business in Indonesia. On market access, IA-CEPA provide national treatment and most favored nation commitment. With this commitment, the host state may not issue discriminatory. For example, if Indonesia in the future gives a better treatment to another country based on investment treaty with that country, then such treatment will also apply for investment, for Australian investment. And then regarding the job creation law number 11 2020, there are several points that we can get for the investor. The first is regarding the simplification of business licensing. As mentioned by Pak Bahlil, that based on this law, the law number 11 2020, that simplification, this regarding the how licensing will be online single submission. The second is regarding restriction in several law, especially regarding share, is eliminated. So now on the regarding the requirement, there will be regulated in priority list. So there will be not anymore the negative list. And the third, regarding this online single submission based on risk base, there will be a tracking system. So it will be easier for investor when applying the business, when applying for licensing will be tracked. And also, that's one important thing is regarding the subsystem on investment service information. So the BKPM will develop subsystem investment service in information, and this is before investor apply license business, they can check the system that in OSS. And the other thing that is very important is regarding the timeline for the investor. If based on this law, there will be a timeline. For example, this is both for investor as well as for apparatus. So if the apparatus do not respond when investor apply the licensing system, now BKPM will take this business licensing. And the last, as I think that also already mentioned by Pak Bahlil, that online single submission is under BKPM. So please, if there is a problem regarding the application, of course you can contact BKPM or our representative in Sydney, IIPC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Riatno. If I may extend on the question by Phil, just quickly, is there any specific sector or industry sector within the IA-CEPA that is strongly encouraged as the low-hanging fruit, as the one that's the easiest to get into? Maybe you have some idea what that industry sector would be?
Thank you, Pak Emmanuel Setyawan. As the following of the law number 11 2000 that there will be a presidential decree that we call is priority list, and this is will supersede the negative list. And in this draft, there are some sectors, especially regarding the hilirization and then industry, what the government priority to investor, and they will get the facilities, incentive. So there will be, and at the moment, now the this presidential decree, we discuss with the ministry related. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Riatno. I'd like to give the opportunity to Pak George Marantika, who is the National President for the Indonesia-Australia Business Council, which is the counterpart of AIBC in Indonesia. Pak George, if you have comments or a kickoff question to Pak Riatno, the floor is yours.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Emmanuel. It's a great honor for the Indonesian-Australian Business Council, IABC, to be invited to, you might say, co-host this this very substantial webinar on the Omnibus Law and IA-CEPA. I thank the BKPM, or the Indonesian Coordinating Investment Board, Bahlil, our Minister, our Chairman, Pak Riatno, and obviously Pak Henry and Bu Arum. Thank you for inviting us. And I also want to thank our embassy in Canberra, Ambassador Chris, and the colleagues, the Consul General colleagues all over Australia. It's nice to be with you again. And it's nice to be also with our sister organization, the AIBC, and my good friend, Mr. Phil Turtle. So I come to you today from Yogyakarta, Indonesia. As you see, Indonesia is very spread out. As Chairman Bahlil has mentioned, the geographical span of Indonesia. Chairman Bahlil himself is from eastern Indonesia, the Banda Islands, which also my heritage and lineage is from. My last name is very Ambonese, you might say. And it shows also from Chairman Bahlil the new leaders coming out of Eastern Indonesia, and so I think that is something we need to appreciate from the presentation that we just heard today. What I would like to comment on is that this Omnibus Law has shown significant progress towards deregulation and reform in the Indonesian business environment. So therefore, you can see that, and I definitely almost can guarantee that this will create better competitiveness in terms of the business environment in Indonesia. And I commend the Indonesian President, Bapak Joko Widodo, Chairman Bahlil, and the Indonesian government for the, you might say, the courage to take this forward. And because in the end of the day, it will be a net gain, a net positive. And exactly as I think we have witnessed today, what Ambassador Chris Legowo has shared with us, that just as of today, $1 billion in the health sector, in infrastructure in the health sector, was signed today. Obviously, the good work of our embassy over there and the investment board. So I congratulate Ambassador Chris and the investment board for such an achievement. Now, what I do recommend is that this Omnibus Law will be a beginning, or you might say a catapult into further deregulation and further streaming of regulations that will further strengthen the competitiveness of the Indonesian business environment. Indonesia definitely shall become the 4th largest economy in the world. It's just a matter of when. The quicker, the better. And this Omnibus Law and IA-CEPA will, I think, achieve that. The beauty of IA-CEPA is that we can work with Australia together to do this. And I know our friends from Australia are very excited to you might say, welcome the IA-CEPA and its implementation within the environment of Omnibus Law. So with that, I think my question, to just kick off the question and answer, is mostly in the services sector. In the services sector, how the impact of this Omnibus Law ratification will impact the services sector, because a lot was mentioned here related to hard investment. In this particular case, the digital economy and in the education sector, training and education, because this is an environment where IA-CEPA is very much, you might say, circulating on, and it'll be a major engine of collaboration and convergence between Indonesia and Australia. So within that context, how Omnibus Law will be able to empower that context. Again, on behalf of the members of the Indonesian-Australia Business Council, I again want to thank the Investment Board, BKPM, the Embassy, the Indonesian Embassy in Canberra, to invite us to co-host this very prestigious forum. And I believe also our members are on board. They might have questions in the chat group. And I even noticed people are coming in from London and Dubai. So this is a very interesting, I think, topic. And thank you for the opportunity. I give the floor back to you, Pak Imam.
Thank you very much. I didn't even notice that we have people from London and Dubai. Very good observation. So, Pak Riyadno, back to you. So the question was, what's the impact of Omnibus Law to the service sector? How Omnibus Law impacted the service sector?
Yeah, specifically digital economy and education, Pak Emmanuel.
Specifically the digital economy and education. How does the Omnibus Law impact these sectors? We can hear you. We can hear you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Pak Jos. What is the impact of Omnibus Law to the services, especially regarding the digital economy? Pak Jos and the other audience that at the moment we discuss with the Ministry of Economic Coordinator as well as other ministry, and one of the point is regarding startup. A startup will be make easier to invest in Indonesia, yeah, especially in economic zone. So, but what you get said, this is still in discussion. That regarding the demand of the it must not 10 million. What I mean is not 10 billion, but once again the draft of presidential decree on privilege still not yet finished. So, but we plan there will be issue. And regarding the education, I think Pak Jos and also other audience, actually this issue already discussed before and after IA-CEPA. So now once again regarding the in economic zone, that's for education, can have for foreign investor from Australia can get 100%. But still, maybe regarding the what we discussed in BKPM, especially there are some issue that at least there are some requirement regarding material that Indonesian language, and then Pancasila, religion, and as well as citizenship, and then it must be worked with the education institution in Indonesia, and emphasize to for workers from Indonesia. But once again, that this is we still discuss. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm now going to go through the list that the audience has put into the Q&A. So if you, we may not have the time to discuss everything that's in the list, but if you still have questions, do put them in the Q&A panel, and the team from the IIPC, the embassy, and all the consulate will be happy to respond to that if we didn't get a chance to respond to that later today. So, Pak Riyadno, there is a questions I think there's a confusion between what is IA-CEPA and the Omnibus Law, Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja. So the question is, if there are differences between the IA-CEPA and the Omnibus Law, can Australian investor choose which one to follow? For example, vocational education in IA-CEPA is limited to 67% foreign ownership, but Ciptaker did not specify such limitation. So maybe just clarify that maybe there are some rules that intersect between IA-CEPA and the Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja. Pak Kristiarto?
Pak Emmanuel, principally that Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja or job creation law, it is prevailing for all investors, both domestic and foreign investor. So investor from Australia, of course, they will get benefit from the Omnibus Law. So principally that if there is difference between Omnibus Law and IA-CEPA, I think that for Australian investor, they can take benefit which one is more beneficial. If the Omnibus Law is better, of course, Australian investor can take it. Or if the IA-CEPA is better, they can take in IA-CEPA. So once again, that Omnibus Law is for all investors. So don't worry, Australian investor can take which one is better.
Thank you, Pak Kristiarto. There's also a question from I think this is the audience from the Australian side. The audience would like to have your views on potential collaboration in emerging and strategic sectors such as battery materials and renewable energies. What are your views around the potential collaboration around that?
Yeah, of course, Pak Emmanuel, and one of the content of the IA-CEPA is this is we support if there is collaboration or joint venture between Indonesia investor and Australian investor. So of course the government support for this, and this also is in the content of the IA-CEPA.
Okay.
Emmanuel, we have respond some question in Q&A. Can I comment some question?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. The first is regarding a question from Pak Henry Swijoyo regarding the exception of the anti-dumping levy can be consulted and discussed, particularly to KADI or Anti-Dumping Indonesia Committee and through Ministry of Trade of Indonesia. And the second is a question from Osika. How Indonesia suppress the COVID number so that border can open between Indonesia and Australia so that it will increase the confidence in investing in tourism. Regarding this effort by the government of Indonesia, we have already formed task force, especially deal with the COVID-19 issue, including how to mitigate and decrease the number of COVID-19 spread in Indonesia. The government of Indonesia has also formed the National Committee to deal with national economic restoration, so that the business and economic will improve post the COVID-19 pandemic. The third question regarding Pak Franz Iskandar. Is it possible to establish company with the month investment of 200,000 until 300,000 US dollar? According to the current policy, foreign investment can be established a company in Indonesia with requirement investment at 10 billion rupiah. So that it is the basic requirement that the foreign investors should fulfill in order to establish a company in Indonesia. Then question from Pak Andre Suryanta. Can investor choose between the policy form in Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja and IA-CEPA? For example, regarding the vocational education, in IA-CEPA it is limited to 67%, but Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja did not specify this thing. Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja will have its implementation regulation. One of the implementation regulation regarding the investment itself, where will be some of type business that still restricted, but not less, the implementation of regulation with the form of presidential decree will be also priority list, which can be given as incentive, including fiscal facility. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Riyadno. Can I just bring up one more from the list from the Q&A question? So I just like to ask the question from Mr. Ian Wolf about the Indonesian domestic coal sales, which are to be subject to VAT. Will Australian coal imports to Indonesia also be subject to VAT in Indonesia? I think this is in relation to IA-CEPA. So the question from Ian Wolf is, Indonesian domestic coal sales are to be subject to VAT. Will Australian coal imports to Indonesia also be subject to VAT in Indonesia?
Thank you, Pak Emmanuel. I will take note. We will check to the Ministry of Trade, maybe. They will specify. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm going to ask the last question. The alcohol business is not in the negative list under the Omnibus Law. Is the alcohol business will be open for new investment?
Thank you, Pak Emmanuel. Yeah, based on the Omnibus Law or the law number 11/2020, that alcohol is not mentioned in the close investment, but there will be discussed when there will be regulated in priority list. And once again, that at the moment we still discuss, but from the higher regulation, that is Omnibus Law, there are only 6 lists or line business that we close for investment. Just to, yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Pak Riyadno, the Deputy Chairman for Investment Cooperation. Thank you for your time for answering the Q&A. We are, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of the webinar today, albeit it's short, only 1 hour. It's not possible to cover every topic and every question, but we have a team from the Embassy, the Consulate Generals, and the Consulate in Darwin, as well as the IIPC, the Indonesian Investment Promotion Center in Sydney. They will always be ready to assist. Now, if you check your chat box, at the bottom of your chat box, IIPC has posted some email addresses that you can send email to if you need some help or you need to ask questions about the topic discussed today, or about any about IA-CEPA or the Omnibus Law, anything that you want to know about the Australia-Indonesia business relationship. Please send them an email using the email address in the chat box. Now, before we go, would like to get your thoughts for the next webinar. So you should see in a minute there's in front of your screen a survey popping up. We'd like to know if you can give your opinion about what should be the what we should be discussing in the next webinar. I hope there is a survey popping up. Otherwise, I will look funny. Do we have the survey? Oh, after the webinar ends. Okay, so the survey will pop up later after the webinar ends. So please fill it in later. So don't just exit and exit once the webinar terminated. Please fill out the form so we can know what you would like to see in the next webinar. So I'd like to thank you all the panelists. I'd like to thank Phil Turtle, Pak George, the Embassy in Canberra. Thank you, Pak Chris, also the Chairman Bahlil that has left. Pak Riatno, thank you for your time. And also the Indonesia Investment Promotion Center, or the Consulate General, the Consulate in Darwin. And thank you very much for putting this together. I'm sure that everybody have a great, tremendous value out of this. And hope to see you all next time. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.